President Bola Tinubu declared state of emergency on the nation's security training facilities. And the Chinese government has given its backing to Nigeria over President Donald Trump of the United States' statement of a possible military intervention in Nigeria. Hello everyone, welcome to the program. This is Politics Today, live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Wakimale here in Abuja. We have a lot on our plate tonight, and we will be helping you to make sense of some of your biggest stories in the land, from what happened earlier today in Ibadan, where there is a state high court is giving judgment with respect to what is happening in the People's Democratic Party, and that court says that the PDP can go ahead with their convention, to what China is saying with respect to the President Trump statement on a possibility of a military intervention in Nigeria. And we're getting all of these conversations going. The state of emergency declared by the president, what does this mean? What are the implications? What is the use for our security architecture? All of that we have lined up for you. But first, let's check out some of your political write-up stories.
President Bola Tinubu has written to the Senate requesting the screening and confirmation of Dr. Kingsley Tochukwu, a senior advocate of Nigeria from Enugu State, as the Minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. The letter conveying the President's request was read on the floor of the Senate by the Senate President Godswill Akpabio during today's plenary. Meanwhile, the Senate has announced plans to debate the recent comments attributed to U.S. President Donald Trump alleging a Christian genocide in Nigeria. Speaking during plenary, Senate President Godswill Akpabio said he would await the federal government's official response before making any comment on the issue. Members of the All Nigerian People's Party, ANPP, one of the legacy political parties that form the ruling All Progressives Congress, APC, have reiterated their demands for the party's presidential ticket at the expiration of the tenure of President Bola Tinubu in 2031. Addressing journalists after an emergency meeting of the group in Abuja, the group also appeals to the leadership of the party to reserve their vice president ticket solely for members of the ANPP in the party. The group, however, pledged to work assiduously for the re-election of President Tinubu in 2027. Lastly, the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) says 2,802,790 registered voters have been recorded for the Anambra governorship election, and out of which a total of 27,817 invalid multiple entries were removed after the automated biometric system screening was conducted. The chairman of the commission, Professor Joash Amupiton, stated this during the joint stakeholders meeting in Awka in Anambra State. He decries the level of voters' apathy in Anambra State and urges residents to participate in the November 8 polls, as INEC is fully prepared to deliver a credible election.
Let's begin quickly in Ibadan, Oyo State capital, where the Oyo State High Court sitting in Ibadan has declared the People's Democratic Party, PDP, to proceed with its national convention, which it is slated for the 15th and 16th of November 2025. In the ruling delivered by Justice A.L. Akintala, the court granted an interim order allowing the party to hold the convention as planned in Ibadan, Oyo State. The court also directed INEC to attend, monitor, and observe the exercise pending the hearing and the termination of the substantive motion on notice. All right, now let's tell you about the Chinese government and its backing for Nigeria. The Chinese government says Nigeria should be allowed to play its role as a nation with sovereignty. China is calling on the international community to respect Nigeria's sovereignty following a threat of military action from the United States leader, Donald Trump. The Chinese government reaffirms its support for President Bola Tinubu's administration, praising Nigeria for pursuing a development path that reflects the country's unique national realities. a foreign ministry spokesperson, Mao Ning, for China, says on social media that as a comprehensive strategy partner of Nigeria, China firmly supports the Nigerian government and leading its people to a development path that fits Nigeria's national realities. Mao Ning was being quoted in that statement made on social media. Let's get some perspective. Of course, we do know that the Chief of Defense Staff had also been speaking at a meeting held at the National Security Advisor's Office earlier today. We will be bringing you some of the soundbite on what the views are with respect to what some of the warnings and the planned action by the American government on Nigeria. But a political opposition party in Nigeria has been speaking on this matter, and they are of the view that, yeah, we've seen this conversation before in this country, but to a large extent, some of these narratives are being fueled by some of the elements who are now running the affairs of this country. I'm being joined by the African Democratic Congress spokesperson, Malam Balaji Abdullahi, who is live for us here in our studio. Malam Abdullahi, thank you so much indeed for joining us tonight.
Thank you, my pleasure.
Yeah. Can you summarize for us the position of the ADC with respect to what Donald Trump said about Nigeria and the possibility, according to him, that the Department of War should be ready to come into Nigeria?
Well, thank you very much. The position of ADC, we've made that clear yesterday. We see this as primarily a matter of security. Are people being killed in Nigeria? Regardless of how it is framed, has the security situation in Nigeria gotten a lot worse under this administration or not? So the primary question we should be asking ourselves is whether more people are dying in this country today than before this administration came on board. That is the first one. The second one is, has this government demonstrated the willingness or the inclination to stem the tide of wanton killing that has happened? Whether it's Christian or Muslim or whoever. That's the second level question. Now, quite significantly, is the issue of framing. How are we framing what is going on in Nigeria? How is the world interpreting what is going on in Nigeria? And who are the people framing the narrative of what is going on in Nigeria? So we say that. I listened to one of your guests. Was it the Governor Wiki, the Minister of FCT, saying that what is going on is the handwork of the opposition. I mean, quite ironically, I will agree with him, but it's not our opposition. It is the opposition that is now in government. Because if you follow what has been going on, I'm glad that people are bringing it up. In 2014, the sitting president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, actually said that the slaughtering of Christian worshippers, not the slaughtering of worshippers, not the slaughtering of Nigerians. He said specifically, the slaughtering of Christian worshippers is strongly condemnable. You see, it's about framing. So they were the first to begin to introduce this religious dimension to the problem of insecurity in Nigeria, hoping that they could use it to whip up the American sentiment, to take action against President Goodluck Jonathan. So it's a classic case of the chicken coming home to roost. It was the ditch, the big ditch that they buried President Jonathan's presidency in, that they could not feel that is catching up with them. So they should not tell us that, because we listen to all kind of...
your own, description, for you, it's karma.
It's karma. You can call it karma.
That's how you see it.
Yeah, it's karma. But I don't want us to lose sight of what is most significant here, which is the question of human lives being lost every day in Nigeria, and which this government has proven incapable of dealing with. But the worst tragedy, I may say, is not just that people are dying the way they are dying, even that is tragic enough, is that this government has refused to accept that situation is worse under them than ever before. Because for you to be able to solve a problem, you have to acknowledge that the problem exists. And the problem that exists in this country today, the fundamental problem that exists in this country today, is a wanton killing of Nigerians. Now, let's go back to the question of how this is being framed as Christian genocide. This narrative didn't start today. I have here a report. I will leave it with you. This is a report from the United States Department of State, Nigeria 2023 International Religious Freedom Report. I've read this report, and it copiously documented cases of attacks and killing in Nigeria. And it framed largely, the victims were framed as Christians, not as Nigerians, in this report. Now, what I find quite striking about this was that the report says U.S. Embassy and Consulate General representatives and visiting U.S. government representatives raised religious freedom issues with government officials throughout the year. So the government ought to be aware that the Americans are interpreting the security situation in Nigeria from a religious lens.
To what extent? Because there are misgivings. Naturally, from a different political prism that you are standing different from this government, and you can see the situation differently. But the conversation here, the truth that we need to tell ourselves, and that those of us who believe that the U.S. president is not particularly very polite in his use of language, and he doesn't respect other people. It's called Nigeria a now disgraced country. I disagree totally with that kind of statement. Absolutely. And as a Nigerian, I take an exception to those kind of... Just for a moment. And when he said in his first term, the way he described Africa and some part of this world as a word that we can use on television here, I mean, those are impolite words of a leader of an advanced world on painting the rest of the world. But we need to introspect as a people, either in the opposition or in the ruling party, to ask ourselves the stark reality and the truth. That really, and it's interesting that you are from Kwara. Kwara recently started bearing the brunt of some kind of insurgency described as banditry. Is it true that one would describe this kind of thing as a genocide, either on a people or in a particular faith?
No. It's not. It's difficult.
Is it correct?
It is not correct. Absolutely.
So there is no genocide on any faith in Nigeria?
There is no... I cannot say there is evidence of genocide. And from what we have seen, we cannot describe what is going on as genocide, right? But the point I'm making, and I apologize to say that, you are also missing the point. The question here is not about how the Americans are framing it, right? The question is that people are being killed in Nigeria, and we had opportunity to engage to let the Americans know that there's no genocide going on in Nigeria. And there's no genocide going on along religious lines in Nigeria. But we did not take that opportunity. I just told you here, a 2023 report released in 2024 by U.S. State Department, and they said they've engaged with Nigerians. Somebody in government ought to have seen this and trigger something and say, we must engage the Americans to let them know that they are misreading what is going on in Nigeria. And I'm saying that some of the kind of politics we played in the past has also led to the situation we have found ourselves, in addition to what everybody is saying. If you listen
invariably, the APC government should not blame anybody, they should blame themselves.
They should blame themselves.
In the first place, they were the architect of this kind of narrative for political reasons.
And we are not
now they did not do enough to correct the situation fast enough when this started.
Created.
Because this started a few weeks ago,
yeah.
and there are those Nigerians who are unfortunately fueling these. And I mean, anybody may be aggrieved. Yeah. But the fact remains that when you stand against your own country, you are digging.
That's something else.
Yeah.
But the debate was started in the Congress when? September 5. I have the bill here.
Yeah.
September 5. Nigeria is not aware that the conversation is going on. Come on.
Is it the failure of the Ministry of Interior?
It is not. It is this.
The external affairs, or foreign affairs, or the presidency, or do we need a special department of reputation management for a government?
It's not about reputation. It's about the reality of what is going on in your country. How other people are framing what is going on in your country is one thing. The reality of what is going on, the people of Nigeria that are being killed, that is a different thing.
Either Christian or Muslim. It's a fact.
And I listen to people saying, oh, no, it's actually Muslim that have been, more Muslims have been killed. Seriously? So it does not matter. I heard Governor Wike saying that his father was a Christian, the president's wife was a Christian, and therefore nobody is accusing this government of persecuting Christians.
Or religious bigotry.
So they are missing the point. And that is usually the case. They miss the point because they think any form of criticism is an attack on them. They don't listen. And they have demonstrated historical incompetence. So, you see, the Yorubas call some people amunibuni. I don't know how to translate it in English. I mean, they are...
Literally, you're saying that someone who makes others to insult you or to embarrass you.
To embarrass you.
So that's the kind of government we have.
That's the kind of government we have. You see, for us...
Could that be a good portrayal or a fair representation of this government?
We believe so because, like I was trying to say, for us, we are not seeing it as political opportunism, unlike them. Right? We feel embarrassed as Nigerians that outsiders are framing our security challenge along these lines that can only further divide us. Because we refuse to protect our own people, because the government refuses to do what it should do. We don't want anybody to come into Nigeria to fix our problem.
Malam Abdullah, you've been at the very highest, you played at the very highest level in governance in this country. Yeah. You play at the local level, you being a minister, and you understand what it takes to have a diplomatic conversation. But in all of this, do you see an international playbook of a leader that is a typical bully and is ready to trample on a smaller country? Do you see that kind of playbook playing out?
You see, even the question you are asking me brings us to another sorry situation. When did Nigeria become this small country that anybody think they can kick around? I read the reaction of Chad to what is going on. Chad is saying he's closing its borders against Nigeria because the terrorists can come. Nigeria used to be the guarantor of security in the West Africa region. Other West African countries look up to us for leadership, for democratization. When did we become this whiny, smally, complaining, whining country? When did we become? It is this administration that reduced us to that. Because, like I repeatedly said, if we had somebody in Washington, D.C., that is representing and articulating what Nigeria stands for, what Nigeria represents, and what is truly going on in Nigeria, perhaps we'll have averted.
Invariably, our failure, or the failure of this government to appoint ambassadors, is also an issue.
It contributes to it. It contributes to it largely because when people discuss your country, who is in the room? Who is in the room? But I'm saying that this report by the Americans said they approached the Nigerian government and told them that this is their concern, that Christians are being killed in Nigeria. Did Nigeria government make effort to correct this erroneous notion about Christian genocide in Nigeria? They didn't.
But I'm asking this question because any student of international relations and student of history, we know that the playbook that I'm referring to, whenever that kind of playbook is being activated, and you see the manner in which, a president who declared another president and the leader of another nation wanted. How bizarre can that be? And how weird also can it be in the manner in which other leaders have been met in the White House at the Oval Office and being treated shabbily. But I'm worried as to the fact that how a country can recover when a bigger nation tramples on them. And the case of Somalia is there. The case of Egypt is there. The case of Libya is there. We see it's not as easy. And the fact that, yes, there might be errors, there might be mistakes. The Tinubu government may have made a mistake. But could we also see a playbook being activated in the case of Nigeria for political or for some international diplomatic reasons?
It's possible. If we want, all kind of conspiracy theories have been flying around in the last couple of days, but I don't see how we benefit from that. Can we control how America behaves? The answer is no. Can we control how American president behaves? The answer is no. What we can control is what happens within the territory of Nigeria. What the Nigerian president does, what the Nigerian government does, how we react to the slaughter of our citizens, even if it is one person. But if you carry on...
So you're not satisfied in the handling of the security situation?
Who is satisfied? You just mentioned Kwara, a whole village sacked. A whole village sacked. Kwara, you and I come from Kwara. Kwara used to be the safe haven in this country.
It's called the state of harmony.
The state of harmony. A whole village is sacked. There is one terrorist group that now announced that is operating for the first time in Nigeria. In Kwara State, they used to operate in the Sahel. And Kwara State is the gateway to the south. Can't you see what is coming? So if we prove incapable of understanding the enormity of the crisis that we face as a country, and other people use that opportunity to kick us around, we should look for balm and Robbie and face what matters.
What do you think the leader of a country like Nigeria should be doing if you get a... Are you satisfied in the manner in which this government has tackled or handled the situation since it happened?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. They were busy trying to deny that government has a hand in, or there is any form of Christian genocide going on in Nigeria. As if once you are able to convince Trump that there is no Christian genocide going on in Nigeria, then everything is fine. That is the impression you get from what they are saying, right? Then you go beyond that, you begin to hear actually this security situation has endangered more Muslims. So where is this situation that we face requires one thing. First, humility from the government. To acknowledge that whatever we have done in the last 2 years appears not to be working. Regardless, we want Americans to understand, we are going to solve our problem, and for Nigerian government to bend down and do the real work of protecting Nigerians. When you prove capable of protecting your own people, whether they are Christians or Muslims or animists, nobody is going to come out to say, if you can't fix your problem, we'll fix it for you. If you can't protect your own people, we'll come and do it for you, because we recognize some people as belonging to us, because we worship the same way, so we're coming to fix it for you. Because you fail to do what you should do. Who is
afraid of Donald Trump? What is the implication of that statement? Coming gun a-blazing. Is it a happy statement? Does it make the government jittery or the people jittery, or what exactly? What should we be afraid of? Should we have anything to be afraid of?
With due respect, and it's just Trump being Trump, right? I mean, from what I've read and what I've heard and all that, it's just Trump being Trump. But the embarrassment is enough. The mere fact that the president of another country can talk down on our country that way, can say this, that if you can't fix your own problem, if you can't protect your own people, we are coming in gun a-blazing to protect them for you. Forget about the framing as if there are some global religious community or diaspora religious community that is trying to protect. That's not the issue, right? Okay, I read the report. I read the report that maybe next week, President Bola Tinubu will appoint ambassadors. I read it somewhere. I don't know how far it's true. But Shehu, even if we appoint the ambassadors today, now in the context of what is going on, the Americans will vet and scrutinize whoever we send to the U.S. up to his or her bone marrow. Maybe by the time they are done with that in January, February, then we'll now wait for opportunity for that ambassador nominee to have opportunity to present his letter of credence to the United States government. What we do in Nigeria, we don't do one ambassador. We do 4 or 5 of them at the same time. So maybe they give us till May or June and all that. So by then we are in electionary mode. So we've lost the opportunity. That's the point we are making. There are things we ought to have done, that this government ought to have done in the last 2 years. They don't do it because they don't get it. They don't get it. And they are doubling down on their incompetence.
All right. Malam Bolaji Abdullah is a spokesperson of the ADC. Thank you so much indeed for your time tonight. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
We're going to break everyone. Our attention will be on security, and security. How is the approach of President Tinubu, the kind of state of emergency on our security training institutions? What does that mean? We'll be getting insight from a very senior security consultant and expert, a retired secret police officer. Mr. Mike Ejiofor will be joining us after this break. Everyone for staying with us. Now, let's advance the conversation, looking more like the first part of our conversation about the state of security, how we are being perceived on the global stage, and how this government is reacting. So we've gotten some reaction coming from the National Economic Council meeting. Well, President Bola Tinubu said he said to have declared a state of emergency on the nation's security training facilities, citing their outdated conditions as a threat to the effectiveness of Nigeria's internal security agencies. The announcement specifically addresses the training institutions of the Nigeria Police Force, the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps, and other security agencies. And we know that there are a lot of meetings the last few days with respect to the situation of security in the country. One of such meetings is what we saw today at the office of the National Security Advisor. After that meeting, apparently, the meeting is focused on strengthening security in Nigeria and also giving a very strong response to some of the nagging questions on the state of the fight against insurgency and violent crimes in the country, and the statement made by United States President Donald Trump. The National Security Advisor exiting the National Security Advisor building after that meeting, where the Chief of Defense Staff addressed the press on their deliberation.
There are no Christians being persecuted in Nigeria. We are facing insecurity, especially terrorism, and it's something that's been affecting Nigeria for quite some time now. But as a group, talking about security heads, we've been doing our very best to checkmate this act of terrorism within the space of Nigeria. And you will recall recently, that just last week, the President, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, recalibrated the security architecture by bringing on board officers of proven integrity who are seasoned in asymmetric warfare to add impetus to our operations. I want to assure Nigerians going forward that we're going to add more to what we're doing, add more impetus to our operations, and ensure that we checkmate this act of terrorism within Nigeria.
That's the Chief of Defense Staff. Earlier on today, we saw the Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, who visited the president. He said, from the point of view of the federal government, President Bola Tinubu remains calm in the face of what has become a major global conversation and how Nigeria is facing and handling the security situation. The president equally received the Most Reverend Dr. Ignatius Kegama, the Archbishop of Abuja, Abuja Catholic Diocese, at the State House earlier today. So let's get the conversation. Let's progress the conversation. I'm being joined by a very senior security consultant and a former director at the DSS, Mr. Mike Ejiofor is live for us on the program. Thanks so much indeed for joining us. It's something we say that is a moment for introspection. There are those who will say we should approach this thing from the point of strength. But when you hear the federal government says there is a state of emergency on training facility of security agencies, do you think this is a part of a positive way to look at things?
Yeah, I would think so, because first of all, the primary purpose of government is welfare and security of the people. And I don't think that any government will see itself failing and allow to drift that way. Like you said in your intro, training is very, very key in the fight against all these criminalities in the country. Training is very, very important. And that will be followed by welfare, because it's garbage in, garbage out. If you go to training institutions where people are not properly trained, they come out, and give to the society what they were imparted on in the schools. So I think getting the schools well prepared to churn out competent officers is very key. But again, if you talk of training, that also involves funding. Has the fund been made available? It's not just sufficient to say we declare state of emergency in the training institutions without commensurate funding of this. And I can tell you, one of the setbacks we also have in this fight against is inadequate funding. But people will argue that the government is trying to, and I think I'm also in that school of thought that government is doing its best. If you look at budgeting, for defense, this year, we have almost 6.6 trillion, which is almost 10% of the total budget. That will show you the commitment of government. But we shouldn't stop at that budgeting. Have we started implementation of the 2025? Has the money been released? What is the role of the National Assembly in overseeing its functions of the spending? People argue that you don't audit spending like that. That's not correct, because I can give you examples. As we are fighting, you see some of these leaders in the armed forces building universities that is not even related, citing them in their own communities. That's not even related to the training of the men and the troops.
Building officer, state-of-the-art officer mess, swimming pool.
You understand? So all those things that are not necessary. We should set our priorities
But
right.
what is the global standard? Because you go to the barracks, police barracks, and you see years and years of decadence of where police officers in terms of welfare, and this is not a 2, 3, 4 years old problem. It's an institutional problem where it shows that we do not respect or honor or give any kind of regard to those who are fighting on the front end of protecting this country. And you also go to the military officers and you look at their welfare. I mean, to the point that when you go to airports in some other countries, in the United States, for example, military officers, serving ones and retired ones, are given priorities when you are boarding, to show that we respect you, we honor you. In Nigeria, it doesn't look like we respect those who are securing us and doing that.
It doesn't. The reason is, over period. It's not, this government inherited this problem. Over time, because of the continuous military rule. The police, which is charged with the maintenance of internal security, have been relegated to the background. And over time, police was not funded. And as we speak, police is also not still adequately funded. And that's why I'm happy that the Chief of Defense Staff, an assumption of office, said they were not supposed to be outside. The police should be properly equipped and funded so that they can go back to the barracks. You see, I think with these new officers coming in as service chief, I think they have to change the narratives. A situation where you see soldiers escorting politicians now, I think it's not in a democracy.
Helping them with their handbags.
In a democracy.
Helping them with their handbags, helping them to open their doors, relegated. And to train some of these officers is expensive.
Very expensive.
And at the end of the day, they finish their training. The only job that they are now doing is to open doors,
escort.
Open car doors, escort, and help them with their handbags.
And again, police is not left alone in this. You recall the former police service commission chairman, Michael Okiro. As at the time he said that, I think it was about 2020 or so, I'm not too sure of the date now, that we had less than 400,000 policemen. And out of that 400,000, you have over 150,000 deployed to dignitaries. And that is why even the National Assembly, because you can see a legislator moving with 10 policemen. And that's why they don't care. We are in dire straits. We have challenges, security challenges in this country. And we must face it. We must face these security challenges and look at the way to come out of this problem. My concern is that the politicians are even the people causing a lot of the problems. Instead of governance, they're not talking of 2027. You are not sure of yourself. You don't have your life. You don't hold your life in your hand. You don't know when you will die. But they are planning for 2027, decamping, defecting, and all the rest.
Mr. Ejiofor, I was asking about a global standard on how to maintain, coordinate a training institution for security agencies. What are the global standards? How often do you? Because this, the president had now asked governors to pay visits to all the security training institutions in the country and see, and they are in very sorry state of the different security agencies. Where did we go wrong? How do we build a standard? I know we are terrible people when it comes to maintenance. We rarely maintain anything. We rarely maintain roads. We rarely maintain national infrastructure.
So security is
our security architecture too, we don't maintain it.
It's the same problem.
What is the global standard in keeping as a solid security training center?
The global standard is that we must fund security adequately, get the schools updated, get their curriculum updated. If our military, the state security service, all the agencies, they attend courses abroad. And they come back, you see that it is not the same standard that they have in their training institutions that we have here. It's deplorable and condemnable, the conditions where our security operatives are trained.
And you probably will say, well, I think it's a good time for some reasons that the new service chiefs have not even settled down. They've just been sworn, getting their oath of office, yes. And Donald Trump dropped the bombshell. Do you think for some reasons it's a good thing, and there are those who say it's a good timing for them not to be too comfortable in office and get the job done? What's your view?
You see, it's a very serious matter. When you talk of Donald Trump's, I take a very serious exception to the statement credited to Donald Trump, because he says what he wants to do and he will go ahead and do it. So it's not a play that we can just gloss over and overlook. So I think the federal government should take Donald Trump seriously.
So we should see it as a threat, not just a statement.
Yes, it's a threat, because
you think that Donald Trump can come truly gun blazing into Nigeria, a sovereign nation? Where is the ECOWAS Charter? Where is the United Nations Security Council Charter? Where is all those protocols, the international laws and procedures and protocols. Where are those?
You see, why I say that we should take this matter seriously is because Trump does not even obey laws. He acts the way he likes, he's mindless, and will go ahead to do whatever he wants, irrespective of the protocols. So that is why Nigerian government, I'm calling on the Nigerian government, to explore all diplomatic channels, to ensure that this is possibly if Trump, the president of the United States, had come out to say, these are my observations, and let us see how we can come out of this problem. Yeah. There's no harm if he says he's coming to flush out all the terrorists.
Isn't it a good thing, if you look at it from some people's point of view, that why is anyone afraid? If Donald Trump says he wants to come and take out all the terrorists who are killing innocent people, should we not be happy?
No. Like you rightly pointed out, Nigeria is a sovereign state. With over 200 million people, we are regarded rightly or wrongly as giants of Africa. So you can't just come and trample on Nigeria. And besides, if you look at the situation, other world powers will not sit down and fold their hands if Trump tries and invade Nigeria. Canada has given support to the U.S. China is warning that Trump should not invade Nigeria. So I think it becomes
recent history, and you are a security consultant, and I don't say Trump does not care. Trump behaves like a bully. You see what Trump did in Iran. He went and bombed their nuclear facility, and nothing else happened. Nothing happened. Compared to in terms of military power, that those who say we can't stand shoulder to shoulder with Iran, and yet Trump did what he did.
No, but I am shocked because we've had excellent relationship with the United States in terms of exchange of arms, collaboration. So I think we should have used that diplomatic channels because no matter what happens, every Nigerian life matters. I'm not in that school of thought talking about Muslims, Christians, and whatever name you call it. We should rather focus on the things that will bring us together instead of those things that separate us.
Give me a moment, Mr. Jeffo. We'll go on the break. When we return, who should be afraid? The terrorists, the government, or the Nigerian people? When Donald Trump says, I'm coming gun and blazing, Department of War gets set, called our country a very terrible name. It says, now disgraced country. I disagree on that matter, but that is not the case. The case is that who should be afraid? And if Trump does his worst, what will happen? After this break, we analyze that for you. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. Mr. Mike Ejiofor is a retired director at the DSS, and that was his last position at the very revered Secret Police Institution in Nigeria, and is being a security consultant in the country. He's giving perspectives on the implication of Donald Trump's message to Nigeria and the killings in the country. The question I asked earlier before we went on that break, that statement, should he be scaring the terrorists and those criminals, or why should anybody be afraid when Donald Trump said he's coming to flush out those who are killing Nigerians?
Well, for the terrorists, it should be scary to them. But as a nation, it should not be scary to us. We should not be talking from point of weakness, but from point of strength. And that's why I say if we should also be mindful of what we are saying in terms of discussion, like analysts, prominent figures, what they say. People say U.S. cannot do anything. Others will say Nigeria will withstand them. Both governments, I believe, are also monitoring what is going on to inform their decisions, the next line of action. So I think we should be also cautious when we discuss especially very prominent people. And I think it's high time to the government looks at the two religious bodies, the Islamic, this committee head by Sultan of Sokoto and
the Peace Committee.
The Peace Committee and Archbishop Onaeko and all the rest of them. So for both of them, the body should come and issue a statement that we are not actually witnessing a religious war, not targeted at Christians, even though Christians are being killed, mainly, especially in Plateau and Benue axis. But it should not be seen as a religious war, because we talk of genocide, it's not a state policy. The government is trying to do everything within its power to control it.
What do you think that this government really need to sit up in terms of the manner and the approach in tackling insecurity?
They need to get everybody involved, especially now that we're talking of the two major crises we have. We have insecurity, but the two major crises we have now is religious and political. We must face them squarely. The government should be deliberate in formulating policies and discussing this matter. The politicians should be also cautioned on their conduct, because most of their conduct are also generating this crisis. And in terms of the religious crisis, all parties must come together to ensure that there's peace in this country. Just to round up, Nigeria has survived a civil war. We cannot afford to survive another religious war.
Just let me take you on a tactical and an operational analysis. Let's take it and say, let's assume that Donald Trump actually wants to help, and he really wants to fight, help fight the terrorists. Procedurally, tactically speaking, operation-wise, how do you think a government of another country, or how do you think what do you think would be the approach of the American military? Is it going to be boots on the ground, or is it going to be remote offensive?
You see, for me, as a professional, I believe that this thing should come through collaboration at top level.
No, I'm saying that and I'm trying to prepare our minds for the worst case scenario. Let's not see it as though, let's take away the narrative of whether or not this is of bad intention. Let's assume, okay, this man yet behaves like a bully, but he has good intention. And whatever action is going to help us take out these terrorists. Operation-wise and tactically speaking, is it going to be a remote, an operation that will be remotely controlled from the United States via any kind of remote weaponry, or how do you think it will go?
Well, it's possible. If you remember that about a few years ago, when an American citizen was kidnapped in Niger and brought to, I think, Sokoto or Niger, that they came here, but in collaboration with our security forces to free the hostage. So I believe that we must sit down at a round table, discuss this issue. If he actually wants to help Nigeria to fight, we'll be collaborating. You remember that President Goodluck Jonathan then was also got some of these foreigners, mercenaries, you like to call them, from South Africa and all these things, to fight them. So we need the assistance of everybody, especially the international community, foreign powers, to assist us. But the way we are going, like you said, Trump does whatever it takes he wants to do.
Because the reason why I'm asking, I know that America has about 11,000 or so satellites. They have over 200 military satellites. These satellites can sometimes be able to picture and drive down and see things as clearly as the color of your clothes, the complexion, and be able to, with precision, and they have precision weaponry. to be able to take out any to take an offensive from the United States, sitting in the in the Situation Room right there in Washington D.C. And I'm saying that can there be that kind of operation where we'll just be hearing bomb on the terrorists without any, or will there be a soldier, American soldiers on the ground if Trump were to deploy the Department of War?
The only thing he can deploy is technology. He can't bring in his soldiers and the military to Nigerian soil. Nigeria is a sovereign state. Don't also forget.
Can he use the bases around? There's no U.S. base in Nigeria, but there are U.S. bases in some part of countries around us.
They can use any of their bases. But you see, they should also be careful. You remember the case between Ukraine and Russia. Russia thought it was going to be a walkover, maybe a few days, and it has lasted years.
All right.
So we cannot underestimate the power of Nigeria with support of other superpowers.
Mike Ejiofor, retired director of the DSS. Thanks so much for your insight.
Thank you.
That's our show for tonight, everyone. Man, thanks for watching. I'm Sean Kimaloe. God bless. Thank you.